This is the beginning of lesson 4, and we need to do an important step here. Remember that our standard for our empirical analysis is always reliability and validity, and that means we have to do certain coding checks to make sure that we're doing the analysis right as we go through. One of the things that we need to do before we get too much further with the creation of the dependent variable is we need to go back and do some cross checks on the aye and nay roll call votes. Remember when you did the first project, we went through and we were searching for those outcomes in vote view. And vote view is fairly accurate, but it's not completely accurate, and so we have to go and make some changes before we start manipulating the coding and creating our dependent variable. So the first thing that I did is I went out and I just kind of printed I printed this particular worksheet that I was working with all the coding rules and everything else. I made it fit within 2 pages, 1 page wide and a couple pages tall is what worked for me. And I went out and I printed it. The other thing that I need to do is I need to get a corresponding list from the micro level data. So go get your SPSS file that you had from Project 1, and in Project 1 you'll have an output document. So get those kind of 2 things open, and the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to analyze reports, descriptive statistics, and frequencies. We're going to do frequencies tables, and we're going to do frequency tables for our series of votes. My votes ran from variable 534 all the way to 549. So I'm going to take those, move those over, and that's going to create the following set of frequency tabs for me. What I'll do from there is I'll go up here and I'll print, and I'll do the same thing there and print both of those reports off. I went ahead and did this, and mine were fairly accurate. Some of your guys were off by 1 or 2. I only had 1 vote that was off, and it was only off by a single one. So I'm going to show you how to fix a couple things here and how to get the data ready to roll, so to speak. So let me minimize this one. Before we get started, there's one little thing that we need to do, and that is get rid of this single observation. The roll call votes will include a state for the United States. Essentially, they include the president's position on these different votes, and most often it's going to be a 9 because a lot of these are procedural matters and that kind of stuff. But on final passage, they'll record whether Bush signed off on it or not. Because we're doing a study specific to Congress, we don't really need it. So find this USA state with whoever the president is in your particular era, and let's just clear it, delete it, and then go ahead and file, save your data after that. One thing I'll tell you to do, why don't you do this? Once you save it as, like I've got it Project 1 data, I'm going to save this now to be, actually, I'm going to do file, save as. I'm going to save this as Project 3 data now, and I'm going to save it as version 001. When we get to this point, we're starting to manipulate the data, and it's good to save it in intervals at different points, because you can make a wrong error and recode something and completely destroy your work. So if you're not saving in iterations of the file, you can cause yourself a whole lot of work when you got to back up and redo everything. So I'm going to start with data version 001, which is basically the data minus that row associated with the president. Okay. If you're doing a really early data set, you may not have one in there for the president. That was something that they added in more recently, so it may or may not be in there. Okay. The vote that I had, remember a spreadsheet, we have kind of this variable view and we have the other one. The one that I had the problem with was roll call number 538. So I'm going to show you how to go do this. And so in the output, what I did is I went down to 538, and lo and behold, there's a lot of different variables here. Actually, let me use this one up here and explain to you what these codes are. The zero code is for members of the House that, for whatever reason, weren't sitting at the time of the vote. Obviously, people pass away. There are people who step down and take other positions, everything else. And so there's not the same 435 people in the House at any given time. And so the zeros are inactive people. Ones are people who voted for the measure. Sixes voted against. 7 actually indicates that they voted present. But we're going to include voting present as voting no, because it's essentially the same thing. 9s are associated with people who didn't vote or didn't participate in the vote. And so if I look at 538, the one that I'm interested in, I had 10 people that were not participating. I had 327 ayes for that vote, which is correct. That's what I have in my original data. And in terms of sixes, I had 101 individuals. So I'm missing one person who didn't participate. And so I'll show you how to kind of quickly narrow those people down. And then 8 people didn't participate apparently in this vote. So the first thing that we need to do is let's go get the good data, and I'll show you how to do that right now. First thing we're going to do is I'm going to go to. You remember this page? We went out and we had let me see if I can go forward. This is the Thomas Legislative Roll Call site. My votes are in the second session of the 107th Congress, and they're all associated here. My vote number was variable 538, but was actually roll call number 23. And so what I did here is I went through and I just printed this out. And so what you see is it gathers everybody by the values, right? So ayes, and then it puts them in alphabetical order, and then noes in alphabetical order, and not voting in alphabetical order. So what we'll do is print this thing off, and then go to your data. What we're going to do is we're going to do something called sorting. So go in here, sort cases, go find the variable that you're interested in, 538, put it in ascending order, and then after that, put in the name of the legislator, because that'll be their last name. And so it'll basically put it in the same format as the Thomas Legislative print-off. Okay, so after I did that, I ran it. And this is what I did. I went over here to, this is really slow for whatever reason. Okay, here's my variable 538. Didn't put it. There it is. That's exactly what I needed. For whatever reason, mine is really slow today. Okay. So hopefully this will quit moving around now. No. Okay, there it is, and hopefully that'll stay semi-stable. So at the very top of this are going to be the people with zeros. Those are people that were not participating. I've got my 327 one votes, and so I'm fine there. But then what I need to do is go down here to the sixes, because those are people who opposed it. And so what I did is I went through and I just took the alpha list and I cross-checked versus the no's. And what I did is I came down all the way to here after this guy Jackson. There was supposed to be a representative in between Jackson and Jones who participated and voted no here, and it was E.B. Johnson. E.B. Johnson was coded incorrectly. E.B. Johnson was up here in these ones without a code, and so there he is right there, E.D. Johnson. And so what I did is I need to code that one a 6 and see how everybody else is coded 6 here at the same time. And that's pretty good. So after that, I made that change. I'm going to file, save my current iteration. And then let me just quickly run analyze reports. I need to go to the output file. This is a little bit weird, but if I go to this output file and go descriptive statistics frequencies, And here I don't want to do all of them again. So I'll move them back and I'll take the one that I'm interested in. I'll click OK. And it should run that last one. And so this one, now the proper number of people are there, 327 and 101, and then 7 people didn't participate. Okay, so at this point, I've got the proper number of aye and nay votes, and so my data is reconciled for all my individual votes. And so when I recode them in the next few steps, I'll have good, reliable data. You pretty much need to do this for your range of votes. You'll probably have some where you're few off, and there'll probably be something with a discrepancy. They'll either be in the 0 category or the 9 category and not participating. And so that's what we will focus on. But make sure you go through and do these. I'm going to cross-check you on the back side of it and make sure that you reconcile them. So you got to do it. All right. We're getting ready to the point where we can recode some of this stuff, and so that's what we'll take up in the next exercise.